What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the first podcast on the YouTube channel. Welcoming the biggest guest I could possibly imagine, someone I have looked up to for a very, very long time, Mr. Dorian Yates. Thank you for coming on.
What's up, mate? All right.
How are you keeping?
Welcome on number one podcast, eh?
It's so incredible. So we were just speaking before the podcast about having the biggest guest possible, because Dorian was someone that I looked up to for such a long period of time. When I first started off my self-training, you were one of the first names I ever came across. How did you start getting into training? How did you start bodybuilding?
The first time I really came across weights, so, in the UK, soccer's the big thing, right? But I was never any good at soccer.
Okay.
But I was always strong,
Okay.
I was always strong. And I started, the first sport that I really did was karate, because I wanted to be like Bruce Lee, this was mid-70s, like late 70s. Bruce Lee was massive. Everyone had the Bruce Lee posters. I wanted to be like Bruce Lee. Couldn't find Kung Fu, so I was doing karate. But when I was doing the karate, it's, the katas, the moves, it's a bit formal, and I was getting a bit bored with that. But then we used to do the physical stuff, the conditioning, the push-ups, the sit-ups, the squats, all that. No weights, freehand stuff. But I really liked that, and I found I was good at it, and I liked pushing myself. And then I started doing a bit of weights. I think the first weights I did, actually, it's my friend's funeral today. He's a very good friend of mine. It's his funeral today. He passed away. But I left school at 16, and I had nowhere to stay, and I used to stay at his place a bit. And we confiscated some weights from the local sports centre.
Okay. And that was the start.
And we had a couple of chairs. We knocked the back off the chairs, so we had a couple of chairs with a towel over, made a bench, and we were doing bench press and stuff like that. And I joined a gym in the centre of Birmingham.
Okay.
Which would later become my gym, but I didn't know that. I was only 16.
Okay.
And they had the Kung Fu there, the karate, and they had a little room with weights. And I just fell in love with doing the weights. But as I said, I left home at 16. I didn't have a stable kind of lifestyle and stuff like that. And, I got in a bit of trouble. At that time, it was the late 70s, early 80s. So if you're a teenager, you want to be on the scene, you're either a punk, a skinhead, a mod, or something. Yeah. So me and my friends were skinheads, and we're just teenagers, getting a few fights, having a drink, nothing serious. And we got arrested one night for being drunk and disorderly, and it was the middle of the street riots in across the UK in 1981. There was a lot of street riots in major cities across the country. We weren't really involved in it, but we were in the wrong place at the wrong time. Okay. And we got 6 months in a detention centre. And the detention centre, I don't know if they still have them, but then the idea was like it was a short, sharp sentence to teach you, let's teach these kids discipline and everything. So they had us marching everywhere, they had us doing physical exercise.
Okay.
During the daytime you're working, you're trying to learn a skill. But it was based on discipline. And again, the circuit with all the push-ups and the squats and all that, I was just much better than anyone else at that, yeah. And we had weights as well there. And so I started doing the weights again and realising that there's 300 guys in here. I wasn't really big, but I had a good physique. Yeah. I had good abs, I had a good physique. I was about 13 and a half stone, and I was stronger than everybody. And everybody treated me different.
Okay.
The other guys treated me different because I was stronger. I became like you live in dormitories, so I became like the boss of the dormitory. And,
all because of training.
And the prison officers treat me different.
Okay.
With some degree of respect, because I was disciplined, and I was strong and so on.
Yeah. So do you think training kind of gave you a line of focus to kind of get out of the troubles you were experiencing, for example, the riots and the little fights, etc.? Do you think training was a way kind of out of that for you?
It was a way out. It was at that point I didn't realise exactly what it would become.
Okay.
But I was in this situation, and I didn't want to be there,
Yeah.
and I didn't belong there. That's
Yeah.
what I thought.
Yeah.
I thought I'm smarter than most of the people in here, and I've got something here to work with. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I said, right, this is it. You know, this is like a pivotal
This is your
point,
pivot,
right?
yeah.
You know, I could be continue down that road, but I knew that wasn't for me. It wasn't the life that I wanted, and I wanted something different. I always wanted something different from what was around me,
Okay.
which was not a lot. It was like most of the people I knew, they had a council house, they had a job if they were lucky, that, you know, you just get by kind of thing,
Yeah.
right? And that was what was around me, and I said, there's got to be something different to this. This is not for me. I always knew, I didn't think, I knew I was destined for something different.
Something greater.
I didn't know what it was until I was like, this is it. This is my vehicle out of this situation. I didn't know how far it would take me, but I was like, I'm going to do this bodybuilding, and it's going to take me somewhere. It's going to be positive. Even if I just get a job at a gym, or, you know, I suppose I was dreaming one day I'd like to have my own little gym.
Yeah.
And so I'm not working for anyone else. I couldn't.
Yeah.
It's very
Yeah.
difficult for me to work for anyone else as well,
Okay.
because you know, I lost my father when I was 13, and I had this thing where I didn't like anyone to tell me what to do. I was very rebellious against that. Yeah. So I wanted to be my own boss. I wanted to get out of this environment, and so when I got out of the detention centre, I took time. I was learning about nutrition. No internet then, so I was getting books. I was going to the library and getting books on nutrition. I was reading all the magazines that I could read, the bodybuilding magazines. That was what we had as far as information. And I was learning while I was looking for a job, looking to get an apartment, looking to get stability. And
You
I
were
said,
getting your life in order.
yeah, when I got my life in order, I'm doing this bodybuilding, and I'm not doing it casually.
You're going all in.
I'm going all in. So while I was getting my situation balanced, I was learning. I was reading about training. I was reading about nutrition. So when I went to the gym, it was not like I wandered in there. I didn't really know what I was doing. I had a lot of information, and I actually won my first contest. Wasn't really an official one. It was the guy that owned the gym where I was training,
Yeah.
which later became Temple Gym. It was under another ownership then. He organised an inter-gym competition. Basically, all the gyms in Birmingham, which wasn't a lot in the 80s. You know, maybe there's 10 gyms or something, and now maybe there's 50, 60. I don't know, but so there was a first timers.
Okay.
And he said, "You go in it, look, you look great and everything."
Yeah.
I said, "I've only been training for like 8 months," and unfortunately, he was a photographer as well, so he took pictures of me at that stage.
Unfortunately.
Well, no, fortunately it was, because, you know, people didn't walk around with cameras then.
Yeah.
We didn't have an iPhone, we didn't have a camera. So he was a professional photographer as well as a gym owner, and he took some pictures of me, which, you know, they're out there. That was my first pictures I had taken. And I went, and even though it's first timers, I knew the couple of lads I was competing against,
Okay.
they were on some juice, and I
you
wasn't
were
on
natural.
anything, and I
Yeah.
was just starting out. And I managed to beat them, so that was the first one.
Okay.
And then about a year later, I wanted to enter an official IFBB novice competition, or intermediates as it's called. So I wanted to win the intermediate contest and go to the British intermediate finals. That was I want to be
That was
the
your next goal.
novice British champion. That's what I want to be. But I went to this contest and I won it, and like everyone was freaking out. The judges, all the officials from the federation was like, "Who the hell are you? Where did you come from? And why are you in the novice competition? You should be in the heavyweights."
Oh my God. that's
I'm like, "Yeah, but no, I'm not good enough to be in the heavyweights." And they were practically like laughing at me, like, "This kid, not good enough." Let us tell you, you're probably the best heavyweight we've got in the whole country, and we don't even know who you are, where you came from, or nothing. Yeah,
And what age were you when this?
23.
23,
I was
okay.
23. So, you know, it's a day that stands out because I won my class, and then I won the overall trophy for the best physique of the whole day over the heavyweights and everything. And the guy that was an organizer, Ken Latham, yeah, who was the organizer of the contest, he brought me on stage and he made a speech, and he said, "Everybody that's in this audience today, I want you to remember this day, because this guy is going to be a superstar."
Incredible.
Like this guy. That was my first contest, and it was like, I just certainly couldn't really take it in, you know, like, wow, this is what's going on here. This is my
overwhelming,
dream, but it's coming
So fast.
it's coming fast, you know. So I went from the novice competition, and these guys persuaded me to be on the British team for the World Games, which is a World Championships, 2 weeks later in London. So I went from this novice competition to a World Championship in 2 weeks. I don't think that's ever been done before, probably never going to happen again. So I went to the World Games and I got 7th place out of 13 guys. Which was great because I just started out, and these are the best amateurs in the world.
Yeah.
The guy that won it was Barry DeMay. He went on to be placed very well in the Mr. Olympia and so on. So I knew that I could really do something in the sport at this point.
When you look at the UK bodybuilding scene and the fitness scene as a whole, you definitely paved the way for what it is today, because UK are dominant. UK are extremely strong.
Well, you know, there was bodybuilding at that time was very different to now. First of all, you didn't have all these various categories.
Okay.
You had bodybuilding, 4 weight classes for men,
and that was it.
Bodybuilding, and you had some women's classes, I think, which were weight classes, and they were just women's bodybuilding, but the women weren't very big at that time. And the professional sport was really dominated by Americans.
Okay.
You know, it's much more international now. You got a lot of good guys from around the world, a lot of good guys from the Middle East, which, bodybuilding didn't exist at that point in the Middle East, hadn't started. So all the top guys were American, all the guys in the magazine were American, and I did get a little bit of, you can't beat these guys because they're from America, and there's politics in bodybuilding. You don't know the people, you don't know the judges, you're not in the magazines, nobody knows you. So when you go to compete as a professional, you'll have all that against you. And I just chose to say bollocks to that. I'm not listening to that. I'm just going to be so good that people are going to recognise it. They're going to have to see me. So after this, I won the British Championship '88. Then I could turn pro, and I did my first pro show in New York. And I got 2nd place, very close 2nd place to Mohammed Benaziza, and I got the attention of the then international bodybuilding world, and Joe Weider in particular. That was, Weider was bodybuilding. Yeah, there was no internet, there was Weider magazines, there was Muscle and Fitness and Flex. There were some other magazines, but basically Weider pretty much had a monopoly on bodybuilding. So if you get into the Weider magazines, then you kind of made it, And Joe Weider saw me at this contest and invited me out to California to do my first shoot for the magazines, and I got my first cover on Flex. So now we're rolling,
Yeah. Then you got a bit of momentum. When you look at, I've seen so many blood and guts clips of you training athletes, or you training yourself. And it's so interesting because when we look at research today, you had your training nailed down to a T, like very, very early. Because research today, it suggests for hypertrophy, we want to have low volume, high intensity, train the proximity of failure. And you were probably the first athlete to ever actually train with like legit one working set.
I was the first pro to do that, for sure.
For sure.
I'm not saying there weren't other guys out before me. And the origin of this science of the training, which I'm happy now the scientists are catching up with us, because we're in the gym and we're doing it,
Exactly.
We're doing our own experiment, and particularly myself, because I wrote down every workout that I did. I have in exercise books every single workout I did from 1983 to 1997, every exercise, every weight, everything, every diet, every change, every supplement, every steroid, whatever was the whole thing, I got it written down. And then I write down the results. So I was doing my own little science experiment, and I noticed if I increased the volume or the frequency, I just came to a dead stop. And it didn't take me long to learn that lesson. Oh, okay, I've increased it and I've got a plateau. Right, let's decrease it back again. What happens? Ooh, started growing again, started getting stronger again. It didn't take long for me to learn that lesson, because the theory made a lot of logically it makes sense to me, and I'm a logical thinker. But still, it could sound very logical, and in practice it sometimes doesn't work. So it was both. It was logical, I did it, it was practical, it worked. So the origin of this science of training really comes from a guy called Arthur Jones. Back in the early 70s, he developed the Nautilus training machines, which is still some about. Still one in M13, the pullover machine. They're probably the best workout machines ever made. They're like 50 years old, and so he was very interested. He's a very wealthy guy, independently wealthy, so he didn't need to make money from bodybuilding. He just was fascinated with it.
Okay.
He was a bit of an eccentric genius, and he just wanted to know what is it that triggers muscle growth. What's the process? So he figured out it's the intensity of the effort. The intensity. You need to pass a certain threshold of intensity or stress in order to get a reaction. Because the muscle growth is basically a reaction to a stress.
Of course.
Yeah. You go out in the sun in the hot, your body starts producing melanin. Your skin starts getting darker. Why? Because it's trying to protect you from this stress. So it's the same kind of thing basically when you go in the gym. You're putting stress on the muscles, you're breaking them down, and if it's more stress than your body's comfortable with, then there's a reaction. Bit bigger, bit stronger. So you need to send a message, a degree of intensity, and then you need to recover from that. When you recover, after you've recovered, then you can recompensate, you can overcompensate, you can grow. So there's three things. You must train intensely enough, you must allow enough time for recovery, and obviously you need all the correct nutrition and rest and everything like that to give the body all the building blocks it needs to recover from that. And this would vary from one person to another. Some people recover more quickly from exercise. If you're using anabolics, steroids, that's going to enhance your recovery. It's probably one of the main benefits is that people, naturally you get to a certain level and your body can't really recover anymore and it kind of plateaus. So that's why athletes use steroids, because it gets you over that plateau. I'm not saying you should or you shouldn't, just
of course,
putting it out there because it's relevant. If you're not using, you'll require more time to recover than a guy using juice. So if you see a guy, he's training 5 times a week and is still growing, and but he's on a lot of testosterone. You're not, so you're not going to be able to do that. So just worth mentioning that. So that's the process, and most people don't need to train 3 or 4 times a week maximum in order to be able to recover. And if you're training and you made no progress in the last month, you didn't get any stronger in the last month, you didn't do any more reps, then you need to reassess things. Don't just keep, I just keep doing it, it's going to start one day. No, it's not. If you made no progress this month and you do the same thing next month, you will have the same outcome.
What were your biggest challenges when you made that transition into 6-time Mr. Olympia, year upon year upon year? What was your biggest challenge as an athlete?
The biggest challenge for me is I always use this energy that I'm the underdog.
Okay.
I'm this guy from Birmingham. I live in a council flat. I'm barely paying my bills. I got no money, motherfuckers. I'm coming for your stuff. But when you're the champion, it's a totally different ball game, right? Now how is it going to change the
Did you let it get
mindset?
To you?
No, I had a little wrestle with myself before I won the first one, actually. Because the first Mr. Olympia I competed against, I was going against Lee Haney. He was already 7 times Mr. Olympia. He was a Mr. Olympia when I started training. So first of all, I had to stop viewing him as
an idol.
An idol, You're just a guy with 2 arms, 2 legs. At this point, I'm starting to think like this. And you lift weights, I lift weights. And I'm putting my all into this, everything, There's no way you're putting more into me. So I changed my mindset and I'm going to go beat this guy. It didn't work out. I got close second, but I was still the underdog. I was still using the underdog. You're the 7 times Mr. Olympia. You got the trophies, you got the money, you got the status. I'm coming after that. Lee Haney retired. So the next year the title's open and I'm actually, logically, the favourite, which was a strange position for me to be in, and I had to get my head around it. So, you're the favourite. I know. So you could actually be, it's the reality, man. You can be Mr. Olympia this year. This can happen. But me? Really? Like the one guy in the world? There's millions of people out there lifting weights. You're going to be the guy? Oh yeah, it's got to be somebody. So why not you, man? Why not you? And you've done the work. Nobody's doing more than you. You deserve it. So I just changed the mindset, and then I became the champion. in '92, and I thought I still got a lot of improvements I can make here, because along with the notes I was taking pictures every week as well, and I noticed like I was really kind of over dieting the last few weeks, because I was already in shape like 4 or 5 weeks out, but I thought if I drop a little bit more, I get a bit harder, I drop a little bit more, I get harder. But what I noticed is that actually I was just losing size at some point.
Muscle. Yeah.
So I said I'm not going to do that next year. So in between 92 and 93, made massive improvements, which was like everyone thought I had some new secret drug. I didn't. I'll be selling it now if I did. You know? I didn't. It was just that I learned not to over diet and not to lose muscle tissue, because I was still, you know, I got to be Mr. Olympia on the back of just a few preps. I was still kind of learning, you know. So that was to '93, where it was generally accepted that, like, no one had ever seen anything like that before. It was a new standard for the sport and so on. And well, then you're trying to maintain that and fight other people off.
When you were doing Olympia year to year to year, if you road mapped out the year, how did it work for you? So would you do like a 16-week dieting prep, or would you have slightly longer, or how did you operate your year?
I would normally have 12 weeks dieting, because I knew I did 14 weeks, but I would overshoot all the time. Okay, in theory, I could do 14 weeks and 4 weeks out realize I'm in shape and bring the calories up and hold it.
Yeah.
But mentally this is very, very difficult. And sometimes when your body's on a roll, like your metabolism starts burning quick, and it's hard to control the weight loss. So I cut it down to 12 weeks, and normally I'd be really in shape like 3 weeks before.
You were in shape in your off season anyway too, weren't you?
I was in pretty good shape. I was just, people, it looks smooth in off season, but it was mainly water. Okay. Because of the stuff I was using. Yeah. And eating a lot more carbs and so on, you're not caring about your salt intake. So I was just holding more water. 3 or 4 weeks into the diet, I'm already starting to look hard, because I've just lost that initial water weight, and I didn't have a lot of body fat to lose.
What was gear like back in that time?
Real.
No steroids.
It was real. That's what I'm saying. It was made by pharmaceutical companies. So if it says 250 milligrams,
it's legit.
It's 250 milligrams, and you don't know, because so many underground companies now, that you really don't know what the dosages are. But
it obviously wasn't as popular, was it?
No, it wasn't as popular now, because it was mainly guys that were hardcore into competing and stuff like that, kind of an inner circle thing, and not really out in the mainstream consciousness. Where now everybody knows about steroids, right? And everybody's using steroids. Guys use steroids now, not for bodybuilding competitions. Probably that would be like 2-3% of the users. Now is a totally different thing. Now the way I see it, guys use steroids as a male enhancement. The girls have got Botox, right?
That's 100%
They've got Botox,
true.
face fillers, ass implants, tits implants. They've got all that. So I think guys just think, well, I want to look good. I want a lean, muscular physique. I want to have the abs, and this is a shortcut to do it.
100%.
And that I think is the attitude now. It's totally different. Totally different. And I mean, women that were competing in bodybuilding, then you can go back to the 80s and see. I mean, they're not very muscular, more or less like a bikini competitor from now.
Okay.
And those girls were using maybe a little bit of Anavar or Winstrol, but they were competing. There was no such thing. I never heard of a girl come to me and say, I want to harden up. Shall I take some Winstrol or some Anavar? Now you got all kind of girls. Like, girls say to me, because you're from the gym. I'm thinking of taking this, Winstrol or Anavar. And like, do you know what it is?
Yeah, I know.
Do you know what it is? Yeah, it's just going to make me leaner and harder. Yeah, but do you know what it is?
Do you know what it actually
is? It's an anabolic steroid. Anabolic steroids are derivatives of testosterone, which is a male hormone. So they've took the anabolic part and tried to reduce the male part to make this anabolic, but it still carries some male characteristics with it. So, it's not to be played around with. And now, you've got women using juice just to stay in shape, not for competitions, not for nothing, just to look good on the beach and so on.
It's as popular today, I would argue, females amongst males, or it's very close to it.
Probably. I mean, I don't work with females that much, so I don't know, but I think Most of the use now is simply, it's not for competition, it's just
for like
cosmetic.
use.
It's cosmetic, and I have no judgment about that. It's just, I'm just making an observation.
Yeah.
But personally, so I obviously use steroids, but in my mind I was using it because it's part of the game to compete.
Yeah,
and when I went to New York to compete as a professional, it was a turning point for me.
Okay.
I was like, if I don't place in the top 5 of this competition, I'm not good enough to be a pro. I'm going to be brutally honest with myself. I'm not good enough, because you don't get 10th place and then next year you're Mr. Olympia. That never happens, right? Yeah. So you either got it or you haven't got it. That was my observation of watching the history of bodybuilding. So I said, look, I'm making a lot of sacrifices here. I had a young son with my partner, who later we got married. So they lose time with you. They lose. You head to somewhere else, you're on a diet, whatever. It's time, it's focus, you lose it. There's money going to the sport as well. Of course. And also using the steroids, I was like, I got to justify this. Yeah. And if I'm not now at this point going to earn my living at this, it's enough, I'm not saying I won't train. I'll train, I love bodybuilding. Maybe open another gym or something, because I had my gym at this point. Okay. So I saw so many people kind of wasting their life, making all these sacrifices, and they're not getting anywhere because they don't have what it takes. So I didn't want that to be me. And, I got 2nd place, so that's the history I carried on. But at that point, I would have stopped taking the steroids because I wouldn't consider the potential risks worth the benefit that I was getting. It's just, I'm just quite analytical about it like that. So I think people that are taking it for cosmetic reasons, they're probably going to end up regretting that later on, because it messes up your own hormones when you come off, and then you're going to be kind of stuck being on all the time, and maybe you don't want to be, and there's a whole lot of things there you have to take in consideration.
When you look at, and even just from listening to you speak, I think one of the main messages that you give across is discipline and the importance of it. How much of your success in your career would you contribute to your mindset and your discipline as a whole? Probably
a great percentage of it.
Yeah.
I got what I got from my mum and dad.
Okay.
I got some good genetics, mainly from my mum, I think, because she had the lats and big calves and stuff, and she just rode horses. She didn't lift no weights, So I got good genetics to start with,
Yeah.
If you don't have that, you're not going to be Mr. Olympia. I don't care what you do,
Yeah.
But apart from that, the mental focus, the discipline is what made it for me. Mm-hmm. That's the key. And I approached it almost like it's a discipline contest. I think that's why I used to over diet a little bit as well.
Perspective.
Yeah. Because I'll be like, I'll out train you, I'll out discipline you, I'll out diet you. So I tend to overdo the dieting a little bit sometimes. So, what really separates the guy that's first from the guy that's 2nd or 3rd or 5th at that level, they're all got great genetics, And I would argue some guys had better genetics than me because they didn't put one in, I put in.
Okay.
If they did, maybe they would have beat me. We don't know because they didn't. So that's the factor that decides the 1, the 2, the 3. It's going to be up there at the end of the day. And I was very disciplined, almost to an unnecessary degree, that I wouldn't go out at night if I was going to get home after 11. Because I need to be in the bed at 11:30, 12. So I'm not going to go to the movies tonight if I finish too late, or like social things. Okay, I don't want to go. Just going to stay home and rest and stuff like that. So discipline, concerted effort, taking care of what you're eating, resting, all that stuff.
Yeah.
You still want it? You still think? Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a price to be paid here.
Exactly.
It's not for free.
Exactly. That's something that I say to my clients all the time, because when clients check in with me, of course, you'll probably agree with me on this, that nobody is consistently motivated. But one message I always deliver to clients is, even when motivation levels are low, you have to be disciplined enough to carry you through those places to where you're like, fuck it, I don't care as of right now with diet or training, because not everyone is going to be hyper focused as you are. Even for lifestyle clients, for example, when they're struggling with motivation, one thing I always say is, try and get through those periods of time to where motivation isn't present, because that's probably going to be 50% of the majority of people that aren't competitive.
Yeah, you're always going to feel like Today I feel a bit tired. You know, those negative thoughts come in. It's not like somebody like myself or somebody else that excels in a sport don't have those thoughts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You still have them.
You still have them. You just
channel
dominate them. You know, there's like two heads, the angel and the devil always talking in your ear, right?
Yeah.
Which one are you going to listen to, man? That's the thing. It's not that, you know, I had 2 injuries like that. I believe would have put anyone else out of the contest.
What were the injuries?
I had a torn bicep in 1994.
I remember that.
And I tore a tricep on my tendon in 1997. And I remember in 1994, I mean, 93 was my second win that had just destroyed the competition.
Okay.
Like, no doubt. Set new standards for bodybuilding. Nobody's going to beat this guy, Dorian Yates from England, for many years because he's so far ahead.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to beat him. And imagine I'm training for the contest in the next year and bang, I tear the bicep. And there was a reason for that. I was training too heavy, too near to the contest when I was too fatigued, too
How many
lean.
weeks out?
I was 6 weeks out. And I was doing bent over rows with 200 kilos, you know, which was my off-season weight. So I was trying to, you know, still continue that super heavy training into the contest, which was a mistake because you're more vulnerable to injury then. But anyway, the point is, I tore the bicep, bang. I mean, you tear a muscle, you know, there's no doubt there's something serious here.
Yeah.
And it was a big tear. It swelled up. It went black all the way down to my fingers. And I was like, that's it then. I mean, I got to the pinnacle. I set new standards for the sport, and now I'm finished. I am finished. There's no way I can compete now. I'm fucking finished. That's it. This is going on, and then, you know, fuck it, man. You're not going to be able to compete. Just go eat what you want, you know, have some beers, like, you know? No. Hold on. Look, if you do that now, and you get depressed and it's over, it'll be over, man. But how about this? How about if we see what we can do? What training we can do, and stay on the diet and try to do this. Maybe it's possible. And hey, if you really think you can't compete in the last week, then you can always drop out in the last week. But if you drop out now and you blow your diet, I mean, it's finished for sure. Yeah. So let's keep going. That was probably the biggest challenge
of your career
that I had to go through. That, and the second time it happened was even worse, but at least I'd been through it before, so, you know, I had that framework to work with. So, I prepared for the contest with a torn bicep, and I wasn't as good as the year before because, I mean, you know, you're working with that challenge, but still won the contest.
How did you adapt your training?
I couldn't do any direct bicep exercise.
Okay.
I couldn't do my normal pull downs with a reverse grip, but I found just changing the grip was okay. It wasn't really pulling on the bicep too much because it's more brachialis at that point. So it wasn't a huge train. I could still train my back pretty good. I couldn't train the biceps direct. And, you know, I kept on my diet, kept doing the cardio, doing the other training, and managed to pull it off. But that was a huge challenge,
How are you still training today? Not to the same extent, but of course.
I'm still training, but I have 2 rotator cuff injuries, which they're already damaged, I guess, from all the heavy lifting over the years. And then I did things maybe I shouldn't have been doing. Like, people were telling me, what the hell are you doing? You should be taking up golf, man. Wow. So I was doing some jiu-jitsu and some wrestling with some friends of mine, and I fell over onto the left shoulder and blew the tendon out there, which obviously was probably weak anyway, on the left shoulder. And about 18 months ago, I was mountain biking, and the bike came from underneath me, and I fell off and put my hand out to brace the fall, and it dislocated the shoulder and tore the tendon. So I can't do really any overhead pressing. I can only do light pressing for chest. I can do back workout, and I can do legs. So I do once a week. I do a few upper body exercises. Once a week, I do a few lower body exercises. It's just now at this point to maintain the muscle mass I have, not to increase it. And so I do twice a week in the gym with some light weights. I do yoga or Pilates twice a week, and I do a bit of cardio interval cardio, sprints,
Yeah.
because I don't like long cardio. If I do long cardio, maybe once a week I go up the mountains on the
Okay.
bike, you know,
Okay.
I do that. So
With how many Olympians you won, how intense your training was, the outcome is good in terms of how healthy you are. Like you're.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I have these injuries, but the injuries that I have are not debilitating in
Yeah,
any way.
exactly. Yeah.
Because they're just my shoulders and
Yeah.
they're like normal life things I can do.
You
I
can
can
do,
swim,
okay.
I can do stuff. I just can't lift heavy weights. So probably wouldn't be good to bang the pads on the bag anymore. I used to do a little bit of that, but too much shock going through the shoulder. So yeah, and I you know, it's something I've worked on.
Okay.
It's almost like undoing some of the past.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually went on a kind of plant-based diet for about 4 years because my blood pressure was getting a little high.
Okay.
And what that did, basically, proving it's not good for bodybuilding, I lost quite a bit of muscle mass.
Yeah.
I went down from like 18 stone down to 16 stone, but my blood pressure went down as well. So
Okay.
just dropping the weight, even though it was muscular body weight,
It was still weight.
you know, I made a point to somebody the other day. I said, how many like 18 stone guys, 19 stone guys do you see at the age of 70? I don't care if they're jacked muscle or it's body fat. Not a lot, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, so even carrying a lot of body weight, even though it's muscle, carrying a lot of body weight as you get older is not
It's
the best strategy, yeah? So I had to put the ego aside. It doesn't matter what people expect from me. It doesn't matter if people, oh, Dorian is smaller now and all. You got to forget about all that stuff. Your life is your life to live, and you got to live it your way. That's the greatest freedom. Yeah. If you don't have that, you don't have freedom, because you're maybe not living your life the way you want to. You want to live it because the way your parents or the public or your Instagram people or whatever the fuck it is. Yeah. You got to do it for yourself. So I lost weight. I did a lot of mobility stuff like yoga and Pilates because it's quite tight from all the lifting, so get more mobility with that. And I work on my cardio. So everything I do now is not for aesthetics, not for appearance, it's for my health.
It's just for health.
And
yeah.
you know, I look bloody good anyway. So
And you still have a lot of muscle.
yeah,
You're
I still have a lot of
you
muscle. I'm
have
still
a
like
big guy.
I'm 16 and a half stone, and I'm lean, and I've got abs, and I've got muscle.
And even in your jeans, you can see you have legs.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
They're still holding.
They're not going
naturally
anywhere.
good.
I mean, my legs, they could be get back to pretty near what they was because I have no injuries, so I could bang the weights on
Okay.
there. But you know, what's the point? I don't
Exactly.
need it now.
There's no return.
No, there's
Exactly.
no point to that. I'm training for my health and my quality of life. Yeah,
Exactly.
but it's no good getting old as well if you can't walk and that. You get, you know, your back's fucked
Yeah.
or whatever. Like, so you know, when you're young,
You can
trust
get
me,
away.
man, you do not think about these things. You don't give a shit because you feel you're indestructible. I did when I was 30 years old. Indestructible, mate. I walked through that wall, no problem. Yeah, that's how
Yeah.
I felt. Yeah, I just felt
Yeah.
like Superman. But when you get older, you realise you're mortal. And, you know, I love to ride my bike up the mountains, like going hiking and stuff like that. So I want to be able to do that,
Yeah.
like, you know, as long as possible. So that's why I train now.
When you look back at your career as a whole, is there anything you would have changed, or are you truly content?
Yeah, everybody asked me that one. So, you know, there's always things that you would change
Okay.
at that time, yeah?
Yeah.
Did I want to get injured? No, of course
course.
not, yeah? But I'm quite philosophical about it. I think everything happens for a reason and everything has a message, yeah?
Yeah.
And I am where I am now.
Because
And if I didn't get injured, you know, who knows the outcome, right? It's just changed the whole timeline.
Exactly.
And maybe I would have competed longer and maybe that wouldn't be good for me. Who knows?
Yeah.
So I don't have regrets. I don't think... I only have lessons, yeah? And the things that even that were painful and stressful and all that, it's all lessons that I learned from. So I shouldn't go back and change those lessons because obviously I needed them, you know?
Yeah.
So that's the way I look at it, mate. You know, I'm here, I'm healthy, I'm happy, and all those things that happened to me along the way, whatever I perceived to be good, whatever I perceived to be bad was, you know, just an experience that was helping me to become who I am now.
Dorian, it was such a pleasure to speak to you. I
Cool,
really
man.
thank you for coming
Thanks
on.
having me on. Number
And
one podcast.
I hope you guys found that conversation as valuable as I did. Again, thank you, Dorian. The second podcast will be underway pretty soon, and I will announce the guests shortly. But again, thank you guys and stay tuned.